few months back, you might remember that I had done a video talking about how I was going to start working some of the projects from my boxes over here. Not all of my boxes are full. Some of them are actually got just extra fabric, scrap fabric. Some of them actually have foundation paper piecing, just a variety of things in there. But some of them have projects that I had gathered at one time and just haven't had enough time to do. So this box actually was an unboxing video that I had done back in, oh boy, I hope it was November, not October. Anyhow, I will post a little iCard to that video. But this was an unboxing I had done earlier and was going to get started on the project, but it was nearing Thanksgiving and Christmas time, and so I had so many other projects that I needed to get going on that I just never actually got it started. So I thought I'd open it up again and get started on actually putting this together. So what this is I've got a couple of jolly bars in here and the pattern for this particular jolly bar. It was a, called Walkabout by Sherri and Chelsi, and I believe the pattern actually calls for 2 jolly bars. That's why I have 2. And so I'm going to pull that out and take a look at it. And then I also have in here a couple of fabrics that I thought, I got these on sale from Fat Quarter Shop. It was a bundle for something else, I believe, but I got them on one of the flash sales a long time ago. In fact, I think this jolly bar is actually from like 2019, maybe 2020, but I'm wondering. Actually, let me go ahead and open it up here if I can. They stuck down pretty good there. Alright, let me go ahead and get it out. Let's see if it says a date on it. I don't think it does. And I can't really show you the pattern because you got to buy the jolly bar for that. But no, it doesn't have a date on it. But I'm thinking it was like right before 2020 actually. But anyhow, figured I'd get in and show you some of the fabrics a little closer. So I'm pretty sure I actually used this same fabric line. I feel like it was one of the charity quilt-alongs. I could be incorrect, but I think either that or I actually had a and maybe I got a layer cake of this and did a project with that. I can't remember, it was so long ago. But anyhow, this is what I'm going to be working on next. So, and I figured I'd use this sale fabric. Let's see if I can show you the picture without showing you the... Here we go. Show you the picture of the quilt that this pattern makes. And it actually has kind of an off-white fabric here, but I thought I would actually just go ahead and use the green and the coral fabric here, and somehow maybe do one for the borders and one for all the inside pieces. I don't know. We'll see what I come up with. But they actually show a couple different options for... Well, they are showing a couple different quilts, but that one's very, very similar to that, so anyhow. Alright, so that's what I'm going to be cutting fabric for next and getting started on sewing that. Unfortunately, I can't give you all the dimensions and all that sort of thing because it is a pattern from Fat Quarter Shop, but I'll just include a little bit of video snips of it coming together. Okay, I changed plan already. So instead of using, the solid colors, I thought that might work, but what's going to happen when you have to, how to hide the pattern and show you a bigger picture. What's going to happen when you have to do the background color in the centers, if you do it out of the coral and the green, is like the coral's just totally going to blend, and so is the green wherever it's at. Will just totally blend in with that green. So I don't really want to use the solids after all. I'd rather save it for a different quilt and use it like for sashing and backing and whatnot. So I actually have a couple of other choices here that I might use. So I don't necessarily like this one with this fabric right here, but I could just take that out and see this piece right here is actually what they're calling for the background in the picture here. If I can show it to you again. So in the picture here, it actually has this fabric piece right here as your background. So I don't have that in anything but this little piece from the Jolly Bar here. So I'm going to try to do, I went through my stash and tried to pull something that would be similar enough that I can just use that, because I don't want to order something for this particular project. I just want to go through my stash and use it up. So I actually I was thinking maybe this one, it would be good for the borders, so I will set that aside just in case maybe when I get done I want to do the borders in a different style. But I believe for the little interior backgrounds, I'm actually going to use this one right here. Now I probably will not pick, so you only need to have 72 4x10 pieces. So I'm thinking this block right here, I'm probably not going to pick whatever that really light fabric is. So I'm probably not going to pick any of these right here. This one maybe, it would go to, it's gonna, actually, you know what? This color, I probably could go with the lighter ones, and then I will just leave this one out. And this one is a little bit too, it's all gonna turn into one beige block. So since I only need 72, I'm gonna go through and pick all the more vibrant colors and leave out the ones that are gonna blend with this. I'm gonna pick out all the blues. Yeah. And for the moment, I'm gonna go ahead and put both of these back into my box. Start putting all my scraps back into the box, and that way they'll still be with this project for the time being, but they'll be out of my way. So I'm going to use all of these. I think even this one, this one right here, even though it's got a lot of the tan, it's got enough color in it that it's gonna not blend into this brown here. So let's see, 2, 3. That'll be colorful enough. But I'll take all of these and just set them in there. And then basically I just need to go through each Jolly Bar and pick out 36, and they should each be 42. So I think I just pulled out, what, 4 or 5. So yeah, I just need to pick 6 out of each bundle, and then follow the instructions and start building my quilt. These little fingers are kind of cumbersome, but they definitely help. Pretty cumbersome when you're trying to open the triangle, but when you're risking hitting your fingers with the iron, it's probably okay. Actually, this would probably go faster if I turn these around. See my rotary cutter and ruler there in my mat are because sometimes I take these to work, and actually I don't need to turn those around. I just needed to turn these around and cut my half square triangles there, or cut off. So these little pieces are the extras from these blocks. So this is for my project. This is the extra. And so at lunch I just went ahead and I had them sewed down already, so I just went ahead and cut them off while I was at lunch. Okay, so I got my individual blocks done, but now I have to sew them into sets of 4 to create the larger block, and then we'll sew sets of 3 and sew the strips together and have the quilt ready. Okay, I got my trusty seam ripper out because I've hit a bit of a snag. I accidentally must have set them there the wrong way, because as you see, the top 2 here I haven't sewn together yet. That's how they're supposed to go together. Not like this. So luckily I've only got into like 4 or 5 of these out of 9, so I just gotta seam rip these and flip them around. I thought about leaving it that way, but I'm just not sure how the overall... I like the design of the pattern, so I want to follow the pattern. Now is where I need to figure out if I can do a grayscale video. I can do a grayscale picture, which is why I did a grayscale picture, and I kind of rearranged it because I've got a couple really dark blues right there together. That's actually already in a 4 patch. I'm not gonna rip it all out and spread them out. I thought I was paying attention to where they were going, putting them in different places, but apparently I didn't. So I'll just try to get those 2 there in the center, and then tried to kind of put the other darker colors toward the center too, so that your eyes are automatically kind of drawn toward the center. And then I'm kind of seeing here, even in color, I can kind of see here where these 2 are kind of blending together, and then the 2 at the top on this side are kind of blending together, and then the corner ones kind of stand out because they got darker colors of blue. Actually, I kind of like it, so I'm going to leave it. Alright, let's sew this together. I didn't have quite enough length to do the borders, so I just pulled some of the scrap pieces and added to the corners. I think it's going to look okay. I just didn't quite have enough length for both the borders, and I was going to use the same piece for the backing. And so I was just a little bit short. So I thought, well, I'll just use a couple of the scrap pieces. this actually needs to be ironed. So first things first. I'm just going to try to get out the major creases here. That's some of the bigger wrinkles too, but mostly the major creases. It's going to just continue getting wrinkled as I'm quilting. But we want to get out the big wrinkles so that we don't end up quilting them in. And this fabric's probably been folded for quite a while, so it's got some really set in creases. Alright. Let's go ahead and pull it. And I had to do this in 2 halves, so I've already kind of ironed down my seam. Get the rest of this here. I'm kind of trying to hurry because I'm on my way to work to finish up inventory, so done before I go to work. Take a little bit more time here on the heavy creases. It's really not too wrinkled. Going. Alright, pull this down some more. I'm going to end up cutting quite a bit of this off. It was too short if I didn't put another piece together, but now it's kind of too long. It's probably only about that much length that I actually need. But I figure I'll put the seam in the middle. Cut the strips off of each end, then I'll have some scraps left. I really like this for a scrappy background. I think it looks really pretty in this background here. So you may cut it up into 5-inch squares or 2.5-inch squares. I could see making like a nice Thanksgiving table runner with this. Alright, let me pull it this way and get the rest of it. Just knock some scraps on the floor. Oh well. Iron down the seam again. Really got a good crease right there. Okay, I'm gonna flip this around. Uh-oh. I ironed my seam the wrong way. Okay. We'll get that fixed here. I'd say somebody walked away from the dog. And he's old and going deaf and going blind and scared because you walked away from him. Okay, so I still got a few wrinkles in it, but at least there aren't some seriously deep creases. trying to smooth this out as much as I can. You can see here I should get another board to put underneath my ironing board because they don't quite match up. And sometimes when I'm laying a quilt across both tables, it can pucker right in there. We'll just try to smooth it all down, pin it together, turn it over, and then check to make sure it's pinned together well. Kind of adds another step, but it is what it is. But I think I will try to find some boards here in the future and level that up more. So I got some fusible powder in my Advent box. So I'm going to go ahead and put some fusible powder on this. And I may do some pinning too, but I'm going to try to fuse it down. Not very good at getting this spread even, so I usually pin it too. Alright. And actually, pull it that way a little. I want to try to center up my seam. Pull it this way, and I'll just put powder on it. And now you can see how much powder I put on it. Try to spread that out a bit. Just find it lays a little bit better if I have the excess on this side, rather than letting it bunch over there on the table. Straighten it up a bit more. All right, now I'm going to move you to the other side. Here that I kind of already cut, so get it open, and then how best to put this on here. Make sure I got enough to go all the way to the other side. I got almost too much. Let's see. This is the only bad part about having already put down the fusible powder. I'm going to end up with it on the floor. Oh. Should have started with this side. Oopsie. Okay. Let me get this all nice and even. Little by little, oopsie, getting wrinkles. That's not good. Okay, come over to this side. You do get your exercise doing this. Sure that the back is still staying straight. A few wrinkles, but not too bad. Every time I smooth it out, I'm pushing fusible powder off, so that's not the best. I usually don't put the powder down. I usually pin more than anything. If I do use fusible powder, in the past I've always done it fusible on the batting, put the top on, fuse it down, then flip it over and fuse down the back. That's kind of a pain in the butt. So I thought I was going to cheat, but I can't. There's no cheating in quilting. Actually, there probably is. Use a cheater panel. This is nice and smooth here, but that needs to be fixed. Okay. So, pull this. You can see I was using this batting for something and it's pulled a little bit, but that's going to be off the quilt, so it doesn't matter. Pick this side up. Wish my table were just a little bit bigger, but pretty good, so it's pretty good not to have to do this on the floor. Smooth out those wrinkles without throwing the powder off on the floor. Try to smooth out these wrinkles. Dog's getting upset again. Oh, and I just bunched the backing. Yep. Shoot. Backing feels smooth. So the backing looks smooth. Try to pull the puckers out of here. This way a bit more. Sometimes I think, just thinking, maybe if I had put the batting down put the backing on it, fused that down, then flipped it over and put the top on next time. Now I need to make sure I got a bunching right there of the fabric, I can feel it. So that's smoothed out. Oh, there's a bunch right there in the center. So that's not gonna be good. Okay, so my seam isn't really at the center anymore. It's still not quite in the center. I feel like if I put the seam at the center of the tables, it will bunch even more, so the seam is right about there. So I'm just going to keep that in mind when I put my top on. I'm going to try to center it right about there. Doesn't necessarily matter if your seam is directly in the center of the back of the quilt, or at least not for me anyhow. But I like to try to get it there. Alright, so now I got to pucker in the batting. Let's try to pull that out without moving the back. It's always the thing, this kind of batting really likes to stick already without even being fused. Every time I'm trying to get these wrinkles out of the batting, I'm moving the backing. Unless I pull and that distorts the batting. So that's not good either. When I'm getting really hot. Feel the backing got wrinkled there again. Wrinkles, wrinkles, wrinkles. Oh, don't trip. Alright, see the back of my head. About as good as it's gonna get for the moment. Let's try one more time. Can't tell if that's thin or dirt. I think I pulled and it got thin. Eliminate all of these where the batting's bunched. Some of that you can eliminate while you're quilting, but some of it you're going to quilt over and cause a bunch. So that's not good. Alright, let me get my top off the board. Fold it in half, inside out. Alright, try to get to where my seam is. Ooh, that was pretty good. But let's try again. backing? Yes, we are, but we got plenty of room on this side. No, maybe not. Tell you what, cut my batting off so I can see where my backing is. This is when you really wish you had a long arm. Or at least it's when I really wish I had a long arm. Maybe someday. Okay. So my backing. Right on. Let's see about this side. And I got a little bit extra on this side, so I'll try to do this without it bunching. Don't quite have enough width-wise. Shoot. So I don't think I'm quite straight. I think my seam is actually more right here. So right about there. And now pull it this way. Got almost too much backing. Half an inch. Feel myself tugging on the batting. Okay, I got the seam in the right spot. I need to get the actual. Oh, now I pulled it way too much. Okay. Oh, hang on. Let's do it this way. Gives me about an inch on the width. So let's just keep doing that. Should be right on the seam. I keep using the royal we like there's several of us working on this same project. And that is right on the backing. I said, I don't quite have enough width for a whole lot extra. That's fine. If I need to, I'll cut off a little bit of the border. It's not that big a deal. It's a nice size inside. All right, let me pull this way a bit. Feel like I might have just moved the batting. Yeah, so I got about a 1/2 inch extra backing on this side. Here, yeah, about a 1/2 inch there. So basically smooth it out now. So I'm going to have quite a bit of backing to cut off on the top and bottom of this, and I'm going to have this for scrap then. I might use it for my binding. I had thought about fronting this quilt, but I'm not going to have enough on the other sides to do that, so I may use this extra top and bottom piece here for the binding, or my other thought was I have so many scraps left. In fact, let me pull some of them out and show you. So I've got some pieces left from the Jolly Bar. They got a fat quarter here. I had probably bought these two on sale. These were scraps from the Jolly Bar. And these were half square triangles from the cutouts from the blocks that I did here. And then of course I had got the coral and the green yardage on sale. So I could use some of this for the binding too. I kind of like my bindings to be more scrappy, so I had the thought that I would maybe sew all of these together and see if that won't be enough for the binding though, so yeah, I don't know. I might do a thing where I cut strips from both of these colors and intermingle these here. Yeah, I'm just really not exactly sure what I'm going to do for the binding at this moment, but I do have a lot of scraps. I could also do strips from both of these colors and use my 10-inch Jelly Bar pieces here. And that would probably, cut up my fat quarter a little bit for some strips, throw all that in together. In fact, let's do this way. So if I use all of that, that could probably be a whole other quilt top. And these scraps here too. And then I could literally cut this into 2.5-inch strips, cut these into 2.5-inch strips, cut these into 2.5-inch strips, and figure out a nice scrappy binding for this. So I may just put them back in the box in that kind of order. I had thought about, I pulled these out of the Jolly Bar and didn't use them for my blocks because I thought, well, these are a good background if I need to do some little scrappy little wall hanging. Good backgrounds to go with these. But I think I'm going to use them in the binding. I'm going to use the green and the coral, the Jolly Bar, and these for my binding. And then eventually I'll come up with something for a project for all these scraps here. So I think I'm going to put these into a bag and then put them back in the box. And when I get home later, I'll make sure the top gets fused down and get it pinned and cut off some of the excess on the top and bottom. And then I'll figure out a quilt pattern. So I've got fusible powder under this, so I'm just ironing it down here. Not ironing, pressing it down to get the fusible to work. It's doing okay. And the real trick here is remembering that my ironing board is only so far, and that far is my mat. So don't iron that. Okay, I think it's holding down okay, so I'm just going to continue pressing, and I'll come back when I'm done. So I didn't use a lot of fusible powder, so just in case, I'm going to go ahead and pin this too. But first, let's bring it this way. A bit easier to pin on my mat than it is on the board. So I just realized I've done that thing again that I can't seem to break myself of. I have this bad habit of putting my pins in, and I haven't actually figured out my quilting yet. Because I quilt on a domestic machine and I don't necessarily like free motion quilting, I usually kind of map out and mark what I want to do. I haven't figured out what I want to do yet, but I've got my pins in already, which means I'm probably going to be moving a lot of pins. So that's awesome. You'd think you do that enough times, you'd remember not to do it anymore. But I don't know, it's just such a habit to automatically want to get it sandwiched together. And so I forget, don't sandwich it till after you've got it marked. Good thing I did too, because that fusible just isn't. No, sometimes it works really well, and other times, I don't know. I wonder if it has to do with the temperature sometimes, or just climate. I mean, that's kind of weird. Probably not. It's probably just old powder. Got it pinned. Now I'm gonna figure out what it is that I want to do for the quilting. I was thinking of some ideas for how to quilt this, and I decided I want to do a design, and I thought, well, I've got some stencils. Let me pull out some stencils and we'll take a look and see what I can decide I like. So I came up with this one. I have not used a pounce stencil in a very long time. So, and when I did, it's not really my preferred method. I just wasn't very good at it, or I wasn't getting the knack for putting the chalk on, and it was kind of making a mess. So I didn't really like it. But I'm gonna try it because I like this stencil. And then I actually have for the background centers here, I actually chose to go ahead and do this stencil right here. I don't know if you can see it very well. It's a bit different than the one, the bigger one, but I think it'll blend well enough. And I'm not sure exactly what thread I'm going to use yet, but I'm thinking probably a variegated of, you know, tan tones and green and the blues and peaches. I think I have a variegated thread similar to that, so I'm going to do that for the center background squares there. And then I actually have a border stencil that I think I'm just going to use like these two little curves. I could kind of freehand this okay, but might as well just put the stencil in there and get it centered real easy and all that. So alright, well, I'm gonna get started on trying this. I think I'm gonna go ahead and try to do the chalk ones first, and we'll go from there. I got a lot of chalk on this pounce pad right now. See if I can get some of it off. It's been in this tray forever, getting thrown all around. There's a lot on there. So try to get some knocked off here before. Alright, well maybe I'll just very lightly and you're supposed to just, I guess, like I said, I'm not very good at this, so this is not a tutorial. I feel like every time, if I pounce, I feel like I'm moving it. Also, that's laying an awful lot of chalk all over the stencil. And see, I got nothing. Well, try that again. Might be because it's the pink chalk, I just can't see it. Yeah, I just cannot see it well enough. Huh. Alright, well, let's try it again. I can see all kinds of chalk right there in the center. If I didn't pounce hard enough, maybe. Maybe I have the wrong side. Let me try to get this one cleaned off. Ooh, and I just dropped a whole bunch of chalk on my quilt. Great. Yeah, this is why I don't love this. I'm just not good enough at it yet, so practice makes perfect. Alright, I'm gonna try putting it the other way. Maybe I've got it backwards. I felt like I remembered it going that direction, but trying to make sure I get it. Lined up just so. 2, 2, 2, and 2. Okay. Alright, well, let's try it again. See, I feel like it's moving every time I pounce, so I don't know if... I feel like I'm getting the center better than the outside. Yeah, a bit more visible, but it's a mess. It's a mess right there. Almost wish I could just take this stencil and figure out how to be able to use it to mark with a marker. Maybe if I had black chalk. I don't know if there is such a thing. I've never really tried it. I got white chalk and I've got paint chalk, and I don't think... Well, let me see what I can do. Okay, so I've decided on a little bit of a change here. So, I had this stencil. See if you can see very well. That I was going to do in the squares here, and then the two little loops up in the... Or here, I'll bring it down here so you can see the two little loops right in there, and then putting that in the center square. And I was going to do the bigger design, but I hate that chalk stuff. I don't know, maybe I just am not getting the technique for it. Also, having pink instead of a darker color, I just can't see it well. I can see that. I can see that mess of chalk right there. But I just can't see the design well enough to think, and if I don't see it very well right now, by the time I actually have shifted the quilt all around and touched it so many times, etc., I'm just not going to be able to see it hardly at all when I'm trying to quilt it on my little domestic Jonomi machine. So what I've come up with instead is this stencil right here. It fits almost just right in those squares. This might be a little bit over if you don't turn it just right. I think it's going to be pretty much just right in there. But it also fits if you put one right here in this square and another one right there in the square. So basically then it'll be like a strip of this stencil. So it will leave this space right here unquilted, because I'll have another one. Turn this around again. I'll have another one right here in this square, and then another and another, but it'll leave this space right in here unquilted. And so if I go ahead and mark this out all the way in this strip and then decide that this is too much space left unquilted right here, I might try to do my own little stencil of the same basic design here, and just do a little stencil in those spots right here, or here. Anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and mark it out, and I'll bring you back and show you. Okay, so the first one I did with my water-soluble marker, but I'm gonna do them with my friction pen, just because friction pen, just because I can see it so much better. The trouble with the friction pen is they usually do erase with heat. they do leave a slight dye mark. So if you decide that, hey, I don't want to do that design after all, you're kind of stuck with it because it's going to leave a slight dye mark where the stencil was. I've had that happen on a small wall quilt before, and luckily it was only in a very small patch, and so I was able to just take the marker and literally mark out the whole patch, so it changed the whole color to that patch, just slightly, and it wasn't any kind of problem. In fact, it kind of actually made it look cool. So anyhow, but yeah, I won't really be able to redo this once I've marked it, but I will be able to see it really well, and that's the point right now, is that I can see it to get it quilted. I don't know why I have such trouble with some other types of markers. There's so many different things you can use too, but I mean, this water soluble one, it'll be fine. And I will, if it weren't for doing this on the other fabrics, this water soluble is not going to show up very well on this green. So if it weren't for doing the stencil on the other fabrics, I would continue using this. If it was all tan in the quilt, it would show up just fine. But it's not. It's got some greens and blues, and I can change friction pens when I get to the blue and use a really light one, and it'll show up well. You could also use a white pencil, but I just don't have much luck with chalk and pencils and all those. I've always had the best luck with friction pens, so that's what I'm going to opt for. But like I said, if you're ever not sure of your design, don't use it. At least that's my advice anyhow. And other people have talked about that, this erases with heat, but it can come back with the cold. So if you're taking it outside, you might get your friction, in the wintertime or something like that. If you were taking it outside, you might get your friction pens marks back, and that would not be very good. Although the quilting usually goes right over top of it, so. But again, that depends. If you think you're going to change your mind on your quilting, don't do it. And I hope I'm not going to. Or rather, at this point, I won't. I don't have much choice. Alright, see, much more visible than the water soluble. In fact, let's go ahead and do this one too. And I'm going to stop right about there. Maybe a little bit more of a point there. And then I'll just sew in the connections or quilt in the connections. But yeah, my pen's running out of ink too, but it's still much more visible than the water soluble. So might be time for a couple new pens. Alright, I'm going to get the rest of it marked up and I'll bring you back. Okay, so as you can probably see if I pan over here a little bit, I'm not finished marking out yet, but I've kind of marked out this section here, And so far I'm pretty good with how this is going to look. There's going to be some open space here, but I think I'm okay with that. And, you know, a little bit of open space on this side too. But design, and it'll kind of basically, well, not kind of, it will form a line down the quilt of the swirl pattern, and then we'll just put the little petals in the pieces there, and I'll just have a little bit of an empty spot above each of those. But I think I'm going to be okay with that. It's sometimes nice to have, you know, not so dense a quilting. So unfortunately I'm not going to get a finish this week, but this is as far as I got this week, and hopefully I will have a finished quilt to show on a video next week, and probably some chicken coop footage next week. Got some interesting stuff going on there. So, and it's getting to be spring, so we're going to be getting outside a little bit more, getting into the garden. Going to get started on getting my seedlings going. I usually wait till March here in Missouri, just because April, I don't want to, it's like if I start my seedlings in March, then I got March and April to let them grow, and a little bit of May too, because it can get still pretty cold in early to mid-May, so I hate to put out seedlings too early. Anyhow, alright, so this is as far as I got for this week, and actually it was pretty good for me, because this was a kind of a rough week. Anyhow, but I hope to have more next week. Also, by the way, I was going to say, if anybody has a preferred method of marking their quilt, please let me know in the comments, because I have really struggled with which way I like best. I suppose I would probably like best if I got really good at free motion quilting, but I've just never felt good enough at it or secure enough to do an entire quilt, and I don't really like doing a lot of practice on my table runners. Maybe I should. I've got some scraps. I should start doing some more scrappy wall hangings and table runners and practice my free motion quilting on those. But I guess time being at a premium, sometimes you hate to spend the time on something and then use it for practice. But, you know, a lot of people come up with different things to use them for. If it's practice quilting, they'll use it for a dog bed or things like that. Maybe I should start doing some of that. Alright, anyhow, I look forward to hearing your comments, and I hope to have something for you next week. I think I just said hearing your comments, and that should probably be reading your comments. Anyhow, hope y'all have a good week. So I can't remember if I shared this already, but this quilt top was actually made from the stained glass quilt pattern from Fat Quarter Shop. It was a Jolly Bar pattern, and this is Sherri and Chelsi's fabric. Their line called Walkabout. It was from probably 2019, 2020, somewhere in there. I believe it's still available online in some places. I don't believe it's available at Fat Quarter Shop though. But I just wanted to mention that this pattern is actually available in, I believe, in the Jolly Bar 4 booklet from Fat Quarter Shop. So if you were interested in the pattern, you can potentially get it in the Jolly Bar 4 book. And that book actually has 20 different patterns in it that you can get it. I think it's like 1024 or something like that on fatquartershop.com. So like I occasionally will get the Jolly Bars themselves when they go on sale, and so I collect quite a few of the patterns just from occasionally doing that. But even I might not have I probably maybe have 2 that are in that book out of 20 patterns. So for $10, it's a pretty good deal. When you can sometimes have to pay up to $10 just for one pattern. I don't generally. I like to buy books, but if there is a pattern that strikes your fancy, sometimes you got to pay $9 or $10 just to get that one pattern. So to be able to get a book that has 20 patterns for $10, that's actually not too bad then.